We have to do like our Flash of Beauty music.
Ah. Oh, let's hear. We'll just make some small talk until some people show up, and then we'll just get into it. So, were you impacted by the snow?
Yeah, and there's no small talk when talking about Bigfoot. It's only big talk,
Big
Jill.
talk.
We're here for
Yeah.
big talk. We're here to make a
Thank you.
what's our new slogan? We're gonna make a flash flood. We're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
flash
What did you
flood your
say?
curiosity. We're gonna
Yeah.
flash flood your curiosity.
We'll work on it. We'll. But in the chat, I like where you were going with it. Yeah. So, did you get? So, are you still? Is it still snowing up in your neighborhood, or?
Yeah, so the reason I'm a tad bit late is that I had to give myself a hobo bath. I'm being kind with the verbiage here because we've been without water today.
Mm,
Um, it's a thing when you live out in the sticks and you have a well. There's opportunities to take hobo baths, and so we have a cast iron fireplace topper
hey,
and melting snow
Tom,
as
I'm
we
sorry. I
speak.
got Brett. Brett. Come here. What's going on? What's wrong? Look,
Oh, weird. Hi, everybody.
Br-
There he is, the man
Brett's
behind
supposed
the.
to be monitoring the chat, but he's having technical issues.
I
So,
can't see you guys. Okay.
What's the issue? Do
All
you
right.
need tissues for your issues?
tell me more about your hobo bath. I didn't mean to.
Okay, so it was
Okay,
luxurious. It was me with a wash rag, very old school. Um,
a towel,
and
a
so,
hand
yeah,
towel. Let's class it
wa-
up. Yeah.
okay. Anyway, yeah, we made a couple panicked runs today to Home Depot to make sure that things weren't cracking underground and I'm crawling under houses. And, it's just kind of when you own a house, there's no one coming to your rescue but you. And, if YouTube wasn't working, holy cow. I mean, the user manual that is YouTube to get a hold of a handyman real quick and watch a video. If you can't get a hold of your father or stepdad or grandfather, or even your handy grandmother, you got YouTube.
It's true. It's true. Well, yeah, we got it's still blustery here, but like like in the chat. Oh,
Hmm.
we're getting right into it. Let's talk about Bigfoot and everyone who's here. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday evening. If you saw my post on Facebook, I said let's get into it. Let's talk about the last two videos that have been posted, and that would be Chad and Austin's proper interview, and then when we actually went up to the lake with them, and it was their first time back there since their actual sighting.
Hmm.
Because there were a lot of questions and comments in the chat, and I thought, maybe we can just jump online and discuss. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, and one of the big things that Brett and I were talking about this just a few minutes ago, and I was like, I hope that the lake video when we're on location, and there's actually a shot. Look, I think it was Mike's camera looking through the two of them as they're pointing just across the way of where the log was, where they saw the Bigfoot and the juvenile. Um, there's some question about the distance. Now, I'm terrible at estimating distance, but I know the guys had, I think they had said it was about 200 yards or so. I'll tell you this, is like for me standing there and then looking out across to where they had their sighting, I can understand how they could say how they could see the hair hanging off of it and stuff.
Hmm.
I mean, it wasn't, it was a lot closer than it looked in the footage. Um, It was a small lake, but it wasn't like we were looking all the way, like, straight across. It was almost like if this was the lake, they were kinda just looking just at, like, a sliver of, like, the corner, if that makes sense. Um, so very possible, and as far as people were like, "How could they smell it that far away?" either, we've hypothesized that there were more of them
Mm.
around the area. But the distance was close enough where, yeah, if there was a breeze or something, or however the world of Bigfoot smell works, it would be very possible for something to drift from that distance.
A drifting aroma.
Hmm.
I've got so much to say about these guys. A, because they remind me so much of my relationship and friendship with D Dog Daryl. But there's this Oregon connection too. I shouldn't forget that. They're also on the right side of I-5 south of us. But I've got tons of notes to get to when it comes to Chad and Austin. So can we just dive into this and kind of
Let's
dig
do
into
it.
the meat and the potatoes?
Yep.
Um, I want to mention first off here that I've counted up how many interviews have been downloaded on YouTube here, and we're at well over 15 here, and there's almost 80,000. I'm sorry, getting closer to a million views if we put them all together. And we skipped over some of these people along the way here because we're just kind of getting our feet wet with doing live streams with everybody. But I do want to circle back later on if we have time to Diane Stocking. But let's get back to Chad and Austin here. There's a
Mhm.
lot to get into. First of all, seeing them on camera filling in each other's sentences along the way, that's so key when you're talking to anybody. I imagine it's the first thing that cops look for. That's probably why they separate people so they don't get their story straight. But one of the more compelling parts of this video here is the secondary, and kudos for dropping the secondary location name so I could do some research on it, and the fact that you guys got them to talk off camera and showed it. I mean, Brett has talked about that a couple times here as far as having the mic left on. Tell them a little bit about this, Jill. When you film somebody, the mic, it's kind of a tenuous thing. When you put it up the shirt, you lock it in their pants sometimes. There's this
Yeah.
whole thing that happens. So taking it off and shutting it off, you don't want to do it.
Okay, so when we do the formal sit down interviews, like what you've seen in both the documentaries, we have, I mean, we're using a different mic that's on a stand, like a shotgun mic that's pointed right at them, as we're talking. But for this, when people are out moving around, we use those really discreet lavalier mics that are,
Mhm.
tucked away. And yeah, once you're all mic'd up and stuff and you're turned on and we're filming, your mic is hot. So if you
Mhm.
say something, we're gonna hear it. Um, and not that we'd ever want to compromise trust or how
Mhm.
we use stuff, but you know that you're talking about that moment at the end when
Mhm.
we were futzing around with camera stuff, and
Mhm.
they were just gay eyes set on where they had their sighting, just talking about
With a hot mic.
with a hot mic, just
Yeah.
talking between themselves, like, I want everyone to see it and stuff. And they had said that earlier to us, like, man, I wish you
Mhm.
guys could experience it. But then the two of them having that moment, just sharing it. And it's like, in the full interview, Chad talking about how they would call each other in the middle of the night, kind of like going through like what
Mhm.
happened and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it was.
let's tell people what happened here in case you haven't seen it. You have two guys that are setting up a YouTube video. They talk to one of the guy's wives to drive them out in the middle of nowhere and drop them off at a remote lake in the mountains so they can spend the night up there,
It's
right?
remote. Okay, so yes, they were doing a wilderness, like a survival video, like what happens if you're out in the woods and
Right.
how to make it through the night type thing. It was not, by any stretch of the mean, it was not easy to get to. So we had to wait. We kept getting delayed because of the snow. So this is
Hmm.
down on the Oregon California border, pretty much near, I think, Applegate's the closest town. But
Mhm.
in order, it's like we took the road to a meeting spot, and then they're like, "Well, no, this is like the first meeting. This is like phase 1. We have to get
Right.
all the way up there." And
Right.
we had to drive through like this kind of raging creek that had all the melt off, which
Yeah. Very
was
Blind Frog
was
Ranch.
dicey. I have that
Yeah.
footage on my phone,
Oh, you gotta
and I
release
think
that.
due to language and
Yeah.
trying to
Right.
we're not letting that one out. But
Another.
oh, geez, it was sketchy.
Mhm.
And then driving up, we drove quite a ways up, and then to the next spot, I was like, "Okay, over here," and they're like, "Oh, it's just a hike. You just have to hike a little bit."
Mhm.
No, when you're carrying all that gear, it was
Mhm.
painful. I can't. Again, I'm terrible with distance and whatnot, and I don't recall, but it was like quite the incline. It took forever.
Mhm.
I thought I was gonna have a heart attack, but it was beautiful. Once you get up there, it's
Mm,
absolutely beautiful.
mm.
Um, so yeah, it's not an easy place to get to. No one was up there. There were no signs of any other humans.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just a small highland lake, right? And I mean, you could almost throw a rock to the other side if you're like super agile from what I'm looking at here on the map and from what you've got, but just a little bit too far to throw a rock across. Is that about right?
well,
Depends who's
okay,
throwing the
here's
rock.
here's another thing that's kind of the drone footage, and Brett can talk about this in the chat.
Mm,
It's a wide angle lens, so it makes the lake look a lot bigger than it really
sure.
is.
Okay.
But yeah,
Mhm.
it was a very manageable lake. Like
But it
if you
looks
wanted
great on camera. Like, I could
oh,
see why they went there because you'd have amazing footage of trying to start a fire and going through, drinking out of a life straw. I don't know what they had planned, but they had cameras. And this gets me to let's
yeah,
just get into it because
yep,
they make some extraordinary kind of offhanded comments here that I think are key. Now, they didn't grab their cameras, they see a bigger one and a small one on the other side of the lake, and one of the things that they say is that we felt as though if we would have had the camera, it wouldn't have happened. So I think that's simpatico with where I'm at with the whole phenomena. But what the heck? I mean, for the flesh and blood community, go get your camera, guys. You're up there to shoot a YouTube video. You want clicks? Go get clicks. So talk to me. What do you think that means?
about how they didn't have their cameras and that's why it
Well,
happened.
yeah, yeah. Attaching meaning behind not having a camera to a sighting.
I think and so many people have said this either, well, just in the comments on interviews that we've posted, but
Mm,
you hear this a lot from, like, on other podcasts and on other pages, and forums. If you go out looking for it, it's not
mhm,
it it's not like, you get your deer tag and you go out in the field and wait for one to walk by. It's
mhm,
not like that, and I think if you go out looking for it, you're not gonna it's not gonna happen. But like most of the people commenting will say is like when I had my sighting, I was mountain biking or I was,
mm,
trying to set up a tent or XYZ, they were not looking. It always happened at an off time. They were doing
mhm,
something else. So it's kind of like the whole idea of like, waiting, watching
mhm.
a pot of water
Right,
boil, I
right.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I'm
So
really
yeah, I
familiar
mean,
with these days, but go ahead, yeah.
oh, hobo bath. I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry. No, but I mean, let's think about that. So, what if they did have their cameras with them and this
Mhm,
happened and they filmed it and they were able to get this footage?
mhm.
How would Here's the next question: if they got that footage, how would it be received?
Okay, true that. Um, these guys don't strike me as these are blue collar dudes from Roseburg Applegate. Like these are my old Cottage Grove buddies, the guys that I live with around Agnew here. Um, they're not thinking about offhanded comments about implications of cameras and Bigfoot in their everyday speech at their jobs. They're not, probably maybe they're tuning into Art Bell once in a while, but they're not engaging like we're all doing, like at Phenomicon with the
Right.
weirdos talking about weird stuff. So they say some stuff, including that comment there, which sets them off in a direction where they're both filling in the sentences along the way here of things. And I wrote down one of the things that they say is that there is this atmospheric change
Yes.
when they saw the Sasquatch. And it was Chad who said it was such a weird feeling. There was static. There was a feeling of like an aura. The air got thick. He says, I wondered if I could reach out and reach through it. That is such I got goosebumps just thinking
Hmm.
about a guy saying that. Now, there had to be something going on so crazy for those guys to think that in the air itself, and we've all heard that, be it infrasound or whatever else is happening, to say, I wondered if I could reach out and actually touch it, or if my hand would go right through it. That's just a powerful comment.
Well, it is, and it's common. I mean, we hear people talking about this, and I'll be damned if that hasn't happened to me. And
Mm,
I've experienced that at the Owl Moon Lab, like down
hmm
in the woods there. There are times where like we would go in and the birds are chirping and there's light and everything, I guess, normal. If you want to say something's normal, like you go
Right.
in, but it can just I don't even know how to explain it. Like all of a sudden you're like, why
hmm
is it so quiet? It's like you're in a vacuum, like all the air got
hmm
sucked out. And it's like you can feel the air feels different. I don't know how to explain it other than how they do it.
Yeah, they said like a pressurized cabin in an airplane, which it's hard to explain it unless you're actually experiencing it. Is it just a heightened state of awareness that's happening? It's biology. It's because you're in the midst of a predator. These are all things, that we want to try to figure out here. But it is one of those things that falls in line with witness testimony. It was a fascinating thing. It wasn't aired in the original clip of them on Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot revealed. Not that I remember. So to hear them say that, I thought was really challenged the narrative here. And you know, so they said some more too. They said it was almost like the air had a vibrational state in it. Um, that was really interesting. They
Yeah.
also said that when they left everything. They had the opportunity to kind of ride this out, but sounds were coming in from beyond the lake's edge and coming, I think, from behind them as well, right? There's sightings across the lake and they're hearing stuff behind them.
Yeah. So where we
Okay.
filmed, I mean, all for lack of a better word, it's almost like they set off like a paranormal riptide, maybe?
Oh, I
I don't
like it.
know,
I
like
like it,
a
Jill.
paranormal riptide,
And I
that's gonna
think
be
that
my
might be slogan.
our new slogan. Put it on a t-shirt.
Right.
So but I think from okay, so where they were filming, it was my understanding that their camp was set up a little bit further up the hill. Um, and it was not easy to get up there. Like, I was
hmm
pretty much staying down there, but yeah, it's my understanding they're setting up camp just up the slope a bit,
hmm
and yeah, there were things going on around the woods and everything,
hmm
and, knowing how hard it was just to drive up there and the fact that they ran down they left everything, and Chad kept saying he kept bringing up, "I left behind my good knife.
Oh,
I
really?
left behind my good knife." He's like, "So
What's
if
that
you
gonna
see a
do? But
knife,
yeah,
it's
right.
mine." Um,
Oh, I wonder if somewhere someone's getting a knife gifted to them, a mossy
oh,
patina knife handed down right when they need it. I mean, that's kind of par for the course, right?
ooh, yes, good
Now, I want to
call.
go to a comment here that Brett makes regarding people having similar experiences with elephants, tigers, etc., as far as infrasound. Because Chad and Austin didn't just have an experience, they had a profound worldview changing effing experience to the point where these blue collar guys raised in a small community change their worldview. They say that it affects their religion. That's not something that happens to people that experience a tiger, lion, or bear, or orca whale. So, what do you think it is about these sightings, Jill? I have my own opinion here that makes them start to rethink doctrine. Look at dogma. Look at religion. Look at where they are with their family. What is going on?
I think, Rich Germo summed it up so just beautifully in his interview. He talked about, I always thought I was told they were fairy tales. They weren't real. I saw it, and he was on duty law enforcement. Trained observer, knows what he saw. Um, you start to question everything. And we've heard
Hmm.
so many people say that, like, if that's real, what else is real?
Right.
All the things that I was told that aren't real or are fake,
Mm.
maybe there's more to it. So I get that, and even in the sequel, we show some artwork, um, and if you haven't seen the sequel yet, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's some artwork featured that has some interesting depictions that I don't know, looks like two Bigfoot hanging out in a cave to me.
Mm.
Um,
I know what you, yeah.
and you gotta wonder if
Mm.
there's been, like, little winks and nods, thrown our way from the get-go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that scene in particular, a lot of people in fact they referred in the video to cave paintings. They didn't really have an appreciation for the validation of the subject matter. They rush to their computers after Brittany, Chad's wife, comes and grabs them at the behest of them, begging her, like, we know we're tough guys here in the mountains. We can handle ourselves, but whatever's going on here right now, please drop what you're doing and come rescue, these
She
two
hung up
grown
on
men.
them. She hung up on
Right,
Austin too. She's like, "No."
right.
Yeah.
You decided to come up there, and so they had to call back. That's when the husband steps in and is like, no, listen, stuff's changed up here. Come
Yeah.
now. And there's this wretched odor that comes in, like a death smell or something like that. They describe it as like, how a dog gets wet and you can smell it coming in on you.
Yeah.
But they also complemented that odor with the feeling that they should not be there, and that was probably the sounds coming in on them, and an overall feeling as night was coming down. I mean, it's remote. It's remote, and it looks like there's a strong trailhead that you can get to, and an okay road to get up there. But once you're in, you're kind of in, especially if you don't have a car. That's what it looks like, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, they said that there was no hair. He calls it fur on the kneecaps, on the short, stubby legs, right? And that's one of the things I've struggled with as an artist trying to make these things, right? Like once in a while, I'll get a wild hair, no pun intended, and I'll build a life-size replica of a Bigfoot. And the legs is always really kind of complicated because people are describing a big upper body and these long draping monkey arms and not so big of legs, and they just look dumb. After you make it, it's just like, oh, but there's keep describing them this way, and they said that
Mhm.
there's no hair on the kneecaps. I thought that was a really interesting detail because that means they were kind of super close to see a hair differential. If they were seeing it come off, and this is very common to see long hair on this part of the arm. It's also a
Yeah.
very orangutan um feature. So I thought that was really cool.
So, just to jump in, and if you haven't watched the last video we posted of Chad and Austin at the lake, if you go to it and just kinda as you're watching, look for the 2 shot of them looking right over their
Mm.
shoulders across at the lake, just across the way where the logs are.
Hmm.
That's where they had their sighting, and that's pretty much what it looked like for us standing there. So, that will give you an idea of how close they were.
I was looking behind their back because there were some nice long shots where I could zoom in on the tree line to see if you had any visitors in the background there. I was hoping to break some news here with everyone and say, "Oh, there's actually two of them standing in the background." Uh, Chad and Austin both agreed that the smallest one was still about 6 foot tall at least. This is the one I assume that they said was being kind of protected
Pushed,
by the
yeah.
bigger one.
So yeah, so where would that put the other one?
No, I mean, if it's little looking, then it's
6,
probably
8, 8 or 9?
over 8 feet tall because 2 feet, it might look like a brother and sister. If you have a little one, they're saying the little one. I mean, you got something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did they ever go back and do like a comparison video, like where one guy was like, "No, raise your hand higher"? Is this? Did they ever do that?
No, they were up there for the first time since
Okay.
their sighting with us.
Now, why
Um,
was that? Why was it the first time? Because they both agreed that they wanted to go back there and look for tracks, and they could have gone with more people and their guns. So what happened?
they went up in, I wanna say that their sighting was mid-October of 2020. Brett can
Okay.
jump in there and clarify that, like he did with the Michelangelo statement. Thank you. Um,
Okay.
uh, but it happened, we were going into a bit of weather, so it's kinda like they had just closed out the window of being able
Mm,
to access, the lake before snow came in,
mm,
and we had to keep delaying our trip up there because of the snow melt. There
mm.
it was, like, impassable and whatnot, so that's
So it
it,
was that
yeah,
recent. I really didn't realize that their sighting was in a year window.
yeah,
Okay. All
mhm.
right. Well, that
So
makes
what happened,
sense.
and this is what happened is Brett just happened to be perusing Facebook and was in
Hmm.
one of these groups where some Chad had posted, "Hey, we just had a sighting. This is what happened to us."
Hmm.
Like he had just posted it that day, and Brett's like, "Contact me." Yeah.
Right. Yeah. These having moments like this, kind of like in a war type setting with your war buddy, it does strange things to people periodically. And I get a little bit of sense of that on camera, that there's something else going on. Like there's this powerful event happening, but there's this unwritten body language thing too happening in there. And we haven't interviewed these guys yet. Like I'd love to get them both on the phone and talk to them about what they've been thinking because this doesn't leave your mind. You have these kind of experiences. They don't go and they talk about that like this isn't ever leaving. Like we're stuck with this loop in our head. A piece of us is left on that mountain probably for the rest of our lives.
Mhm.
um, so I would love to talk to them eventually. Here we are over 3 years later from their experience, and check where they are because sometimes it's just one person that has the experience and they're caught with this by themselves. And they even mention this stuff can make you feel like you're going crazy. And I know that's something that is mentioned in the movie more than once, right? Like this can drive a person mad. Um, did you get any sense when you interviewed them, since I haven't had a chance to talk to the guys? Did you ever get any sense that they were dealing with this on an emotional level that was kind of destructive?
I don't know about destructive, but it felt like my takeaway was that they were really like each other's support
Hmm.
system for what they were going through, and I mean, who's to say? I mean, you're always gonna, well, I would assume that you're gonna put your best face forward for an
Mm.
interview. You're not gonna show up and be like, "I am unhinged at what I've experienced," and then,
Right,
like,
right, right.
go off the rails, but, no, I mean, but, like, with a lot of the people we talked to, like Mark Parker, he was still like,
Mhm,
when he talked about it, he was rattled, um,
mhm,
you know, but what really struck me, what's interesting during their interviews, they were so grateful that the other person was there, so they
mhm.
knew what they saw,
Yes.
and, and even Brett, he's like, he's like, yeah, the fact that both of them saw this, it strengthens their argument. And
Hmm.
that was kind of that came up in the sequel with Harold and
Hmm.
Cody. Even Harold said, "I'm so glad Cody witnessed it,"
Hmm. Yeah.
because otherwise, who would believe it?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, and I mean, like I said, it's a different type of relationship, friendship. It's almost like a duty to the story that you have when you have another witness. I know Ron Moorhead has got the same deal with the Sierra Sounds, and things get complicated uh, along the way as far as having this duty of telling the story and like, can I tell it this way? Do I, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like I don't want to take too much from the story and tell it my way or whatever. It gets kind of weird, right? Because we're human and there's just weirdness with us. And I felt that a little bit myself along the way too, because here's this commitment to tell kind of Daryl's story with me, and Daryl's not here all the time to tell the story with me. So,
Hmm.
just being totally transparent, it's a different kind of thing when you have a sighting with somebody else, especially one like theirs. They also said that it was a different color. Like they were kind of expecting, hey, if this is a Bigfoot, it's a big black thing. Wasn't like
Yeah,
that, was it? What was it?
cinnamon. And we've heard, more often than not, we're hearing people report seeing like cinnamon or more red or auburn
Hmm.
colored hair.
Especially on that side of the mountain, at least in my experience, talking to people on the eastern slope of I-5 between Washington and Oregon, it comes up again. Irish setter red colors come up, cinnamon color comes up, kind of a burnt umberish color. I've never really heard like orangutan orange. I know that people have talked about that, but maybe it has something to do with the type of strata around there, like the burnished colors and the foliage and the cinder
Oh,
cone colors
yeah,
coming up out of the mountains.
for
Yeah.
camouflage purposes. Yeah, maybe.
Hmm. Like the kind of the color of your hoodie there, a little bit orangey umber. Hey, nice hoodie, by the way. Where'd you get
Thank
that?
you.
Where can people pick up a hoodie like that?
Well, um, go to our website, bigfootdoc.com. Um,
Let's take a pause here for a second, Jill. What's going on with the doc altogether? And then we'll come back to Chad and Austin here. Where are we at with the doc? What's happening?
oh, okay. Well, we're just going to talk about the sequel right now because that's where all of our energy is. So yeah, it's finally it's on Amazon, and I know you can also access it via Roku,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on Vimeo. But we're finally getting more eyes on the project.
Okay.
When we did a Flash of Beauty Bigfoot Revealed that summer on Amazon under bestsellers and new releases, we are always like in the top 3 or 4. Just depending on when the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch would release, we would
Hmm.
jockey back and forth with them. So, when we first came out, we're like, "Oh, no one's watching." But now, I mean, just as of like an hour ago, I think under new releases, we were in the number 10 spot. So,
Wow.
we've jumped up, and then for documentary bestsellers, I
Hmm.
think we were Brett can I'll have Brett fill in the
Yeah.
blanks there, but we had jumped. So, yeah, I think word's getting out, people are starting to discover it.
I think
Yeah,
so. I think a lot of it's word of mouth. There hasn't been a lot of on-air promotion or anything like that. It's not like you have
no.
billboards all over the place. So obviously, doing live stuff like this helps get out the message and dropping those videos. Like I'm not kidding. I mean, well, I can go through them here. We got over 15 to 20 different names down here with thousands and thousands of views. Meldrum's still in top ranking for the most views. We'll be seeing him in a couple weeks down in Longview. And then, gosh, Peter Burns up there, Stuart Love, the park ranger, and of course, our guys Chad and Austin here. Coming back to them,
Mhm.
I did want to mention regarding their experiences here some interesting tidbits of news. Now, Brett may want to chime in on this one here from Command Center. Jill, you as well. Did you guys ever look at a topographical map for the sighting itself and do any research about the topography and where their sighting was?
Other than looking at Google Maps, you
Okay.
know,
Did
no.
you walk away with anything like, oh my gosh, this is here?
I
No?
don't know if
Okay.
I'm
Brett, you
following.
chime in if you and Mike did any Google Map research here, because I'm always interested in the place names. Like, is there like a place called Devil's Creek or
Oh, right,
Baboon
yeah.
Creek or Wendigo Pass? Well, I couldn't find anything like that. But what I did find is it is only 5 miles as the crow flies from the Oregon caves. So then what I did is I did an
Oh,
overlay of the topographical map compared to a topographical, I guess, cave map, as close as I could get between where the caves are coming out of and close to, and they are leading right to Miller Lake. In fact, they come within about the halfway distance on Google from what I could find, and come out at a couple unnamed lakes up that way near what's called Sturgis Trailhead. But yeah, only 5 miles away. They seem to be heading in that direction. And so, wouldn't it be interesting to find that there is a vast cave system that opens up in that area near their lake?
so what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you say is now I'll just say I get in trouble a lot for interpreting things the way I wanna hear them, but what I think I'm hearing is that you're proposing that when the weather's nicer, we go on a Sasquatch cave exploration filming trip.
Why should the guy up in Sweet Home have all the fun? We need to be out there looking for giants, opening up our own cave systems. Now, the reason I think that's important is because love him or hate him or whatever your controversial opinion is of Dr. J, his encounter is one of the more interesting, credible encounters that happened years back at the Oregon Cave System. We know that. He reported it to a park ranger who went on record with Matt Johnson and said, listen, I know they're here, but I can't really talk about it any more than that. Um, I've only been there once. Have you ever been to the Oregon Caves?
I mean, unless it was one of those, like, when I was a kid, like a family vacation that I just
Yes, okay,
yeah,
that's where
one
I'm
of
at with the
those.
whole thing.
Yeah.
But we're talking massive cave systems. We're not talking like you're crawling around. I'm sure there's places to do that, but this cave system just seems to keep going southeast towards Miller Lake. Now, there's probably lots of caves beyond that that aren't even mapped, but it's something to think about because they're one of the crazier sounds that has been reported that we reported is a sound of rock sliding on rock in and around
Yes.
Bigfoot areas, almost
Yeah.
like a granite door or steel. I'm sorry, a rock wheel is kind of being pushed or something like that. Very like coffin esque, slab on slab. So, these are things that we have to pay attention to along the way. So, yeah, I do propose a summer. Like you guys have a lot of time right now to do anything like this, but you know what? If you're interested and you're on camera and you're in the thread here and you're trustworthy, we can hook a brother up here. I mean, I think there's enough. It's not like you gave me coordinates where this place is. They say Applegate, they say Miller Lake, they say Oregon. I found it. It's definitely the same lake. So go do your own research, folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike Ferry's on here. We need to get cameras in those caves. I know we do.
Well, if Mike says we have to, I guess it's a go. I mean,
Now, I did go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here too. I want to mention one of the videos that came up after the video was over of the Miller Lake and the boys. it said members only, click here. So we got a video coming up here that has to do more with this. Is that the way the membership works? Is it eventually the membership video will pop up on public?
No. Um,
No.
Unfortunately, the way we have the membership set up is like for the interviews that go public, they have early access, but
Hmm.
they also have access to some other footage that we're I don't want to say we're
Okay.
holding back, but
Okay. Membership footage.
it's just membership footage, and
Okay.
that would be like Brittany's
Right.
um,
So if they want
account
to
of.
hear right from the horse's mouth and talk to or hear Brittany's story about what happened that night, you got the full interview. Do you have any idea how long that clip is or how long that video is? Is it lengthy conversation or
That is a if Brett wants to jump into.
okay?
I'm I could
Because
just
in the
scream
video
down the hall.
in the documentary, it's a shorter clip of just Brittany saying, "Yeah, I went to pick up these guys." I imagine it's quite a bit longer.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot more to it. She talks about how it I mean, and it wasn't just like she could hop in her car and, like, drive down the road. She had to wake up her kids, take her kids
Hmm.
to her mom's house, and then,
Hmm.
it is it was a schlep for her to get out there. It was not close.
Hmm.
I mean, those guys were, like, waiting out in the dark for at least had to have been, like, over an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're lucky to even have a signal, they said, just based on where they were.
Yeah.
Brittany's about 5 minutes, not super long, but it's telling. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, because in the documentary, it's like 30 seconds. So you've taken a nice clip there. Can we change? Do you have any more to say about these guys? I can't wait to eventually meet them and talk to them. We're trying to work on a way to do that, to put everybody in the same room on the same day. Like that's the goal.
Yeah.
So just kind of stay tuned on that one.
Uh, yeah, let's just stay tuned. Wait, you know what? There was one other comment. Oh, someone made a comment um on one of the videos, I think the second one, about how, it'd be really cool is to get someone out standing on the log where, they
Oh
had
yeah.
the sighting and stuff. And I agree, and had we had more time, we probably would have done more exploring and see what it would take to get over there because this was not an easy to navigate area. Like
Hmm.
we were like having to like bushwhack through like the wilderness, and we were walking right along the lake, and I want to say someone almost fell in. It was sketchy
Hmm.
because I'm like, and it started
Hmm.
raining, of course. But I remember I was thinking, I was like, how do we get over there? Because if you're looking at them, like, say here's, Chad and Austin facing the lake, it was like all rock up
Hmm.
behind them. Because I was like hiding up on a rock to stay out of the shot.
Right.
And I was like, how could we get over there? I mean, and I don't know, maybe if you went the long way around the lake, we just didn't have, and we were losing light, and we did not want to be up
Hmm.
there at dark.
I do want to make a correction here. Just looking at the map, my numbers are off. This lake is only about, I'm sorry, the Oregon caves are only about 2.5 to 3 miles away from a cave doorway or tunnel. So Bigelow Lake is where the Oregon caves go under from the entryway at the national park. So, according to the topographical maps, it's only about 3 miles away as a crow flies underground to get to Miller Lake. So, it makes perfect sense, right? If you have a high mountain lake like that, that there might be an entryway underneath it or some pocket or something that you can't see. And so it just looks ripe with adventure, I guess we will say.
Delightful, yes.
Mm. Can
So
we
that's all I got. Let's pivot. What do you
Okay, I
got?
want to
Let's go.
pivot to handprints. I want to pivot to Diane Stocking here real quick. Diane's video is up around 12,000 views. She had a sighting in Florida. the Sasquatch steps up out of the, I'll just call them the Everglades or the wetlands in Florida, puts his big greasy mitts on the office window at some water distillery plant and is looking at a desktop icon, bouncing on the screen, following the Windows logo. If I remember
Mhm.
correctly on the computer monitor, that's what they suspected. And then she got great handprints of the Sasquatch handprint there. Just, thumb down in the wrist area, super weird looking. Listen, there's some stuff coming out here about latent Sasquatch, uh, what they're calling albivernix, this waxy sebum, right? There's a player involved with the subject matter here who's been talking about this for years. Her name is Pearl Prohoda. She wrote a book called Manatang. She's got some really fascinating theories about what's going on with at the molecular level, understanding that oily based substance that they leave behind that Diane Stocking got a video of. She's one of the first ones, the first experiencers from Ording, Washington, that had looked into something that has to do with what this substance may possibly be. A it's a chemical compound possibly called rubidium. And there seems to be links between rubidium and the skin. Now, that's all I can really say here because there's still some stuff coming out about that. But, Doug Hychek did say that underneath underneath the microscope, after looking at what this albivernix does, it degrades the substrate that it touches. That is to say, when it touches a glass window, you can kind of wipe it off, but if it touches plastic or if it touches fabric, it doesn't come off. And this is what the witness has been saying for so long. It's just like, hey, it grabbed my tent and I still got this giant monkey handprint on my tent or my hammock or the side of the house. You have to repaint it, for crying out loud.
Did that
So,
happen on your car? Didn't you have prints on your car that didn't wash off?
well, it was stranger than that, Jill. I actually had the word human written like finger paint right by the gas lid on my Jeep Renegade. And the only reason I think it was them is because I couldn't get it off, right? Like it was stuck to the paint. It faded out, but I ended up trading that car in because, eventually I traded it in and it was still on there, which, just unbelievable to think that somebody could sit there and write on your black paint human and it wouldn't come off eventually. So this has just been the complaint for so long. But Diane has one of the more compelling photographs and conversations about, and she's a very by the book, flesh and blood. I don't want to hear about the woo stuff kind of gal. But that's why we enjoy this video, is because she's so blunt. I have total tolerance and appreciation for people that are kind of solidly in their view. And the way she investigated the encounter was amazing as far as the photographic evidence. So just stay tuned with some of this late breaking news down the road when it has to do with this albivernix stuff. There's some interesting stuff being talked about here. Pearl Parada's stuff is in the zeitgeist. Her links to rubidium are also in the zeitgeist. Doug Hychek's work is in the zeitgeist. So that's kind of my standard notes there before the show. What about you, Jill? Any late breaking stuff that you want to talk about?
Well, just to comment on Diane's video, and for anyone else who might have been wondering the same thing, someone commented that they were surprised and a little disappointed that our cameraman, no pressure, Mike, didn't get close-ups of the photos she had laid out and stuff. And
Oh,
they referenced that they've seen them in another documentary, and they're really spectacular. I'm like, that's our documentary. We did get we have plenty of B-roll.
oh,
So
okay.
Mike did his job. Mike was on top of it. He got everything. We probably have more B-roll than we know what to do with, even though I have some ideas. But yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to let everyone know, if anyone else, you guys, when you're watching the interviews, and I know like with Larry Turner, I need to follow up with him for his audio. Um, if you're wondering, like, well, they're talking about these photos or this audio or
Right.
what have you, why aren't they cutting away? Why aren't they showing it? It's like you got to remember, these are just the full interviews. You know, this is unheard of that we're putting out the full interviews for people to see. You know, a lot of times in filmmaking, there's a comparison of, you know, there's this romanticized idea of what it's like to make a film and what it's like being on set. No, it's like they compare it to, you know, everyone wants to eat the sausage, but you don't wanna see how it's made. And what
Mhm.
what we're giving you is kind of like the behind the scene factory, like, this is what it takes to make a documentary. I mean, look at, gosh, I mean, even look at Mark Parker's interview, look at Diane's any of the interviews we posted. How much we film yay much
Mhm.
and we use that much.
Mhm.
So just
And
keep in mind, you know, there is a lot of other B-roll and stuff, but that's not the purpose of what we're doing.
Mark Parker, I don't know about all the witnesses on here. I would say Joe Belart definitely fits in this category. Ron Moorhead, Scott Nelson, Mark Parker would definitely fit in this category. Sonia would fit in this category. There's so much more that we didn't even get on the interview with them. Some experiences that would blow your mind. And the only way you're ever going to meet these guys and get those extra stories out of them, and possibly your own experience by embracing these stories as being possibly true, um, is to come to one of these conferences where these guys are at, or they're speaking, or reach out to them, because they have some invaluable stuff that we just don't have time to get out there. In particular, um, Mark Parker. I mean, we apparently we don't have the video of him talking about what happened to him in Cottage Grove, but it set him straight as far as this is not flesh and blood. There's something else going on here. Yeah, I saw one when I was bow hunting, but holy crap, they can do that. As Barb Shoop says, they can do that. They can do that. Yeah. And so, oh, by the way, Mark Parker just texted me not too long ago, and he's got a brand new Sasquatch tattoo, I think, on
I
his thigh or
saw
something like that.
that. I
Right.
saw that on Facebook.
So he's
Amazing.
still thinking about it. Who knows? You may see him pull up into Oregon again one day and head out to the woods, because I think that's where he belongs. He's probably out in the woods right now.
He's out in Michigan, which has got
That's pretty
plenty of
squatchy.
squatchy and amongst other things in the woods. So
Let's before because we're getting closer to our time here, Jill. We have something coming up here on the 26th and 27th in Longview. We'll be out there for what's known as Squatch Fest. It's Meldrum's first appearance back. It's our first time having a booth at Squatch Fest. Um, we have some swag that people can get a hold of. You guys will be on hand to answer questions. Maybe there'll be somebody from besides Meldrum who's in Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed. We don't know who's going to show up. Henry Franzoni lives down the road. Joe Belart lives down the road. Some of these people just may show up and hang out at our booth. It could happen.
it could anything can happen. Anything.
I'll have some of the wood watchers there, but I did want to mention I can't carve like crazy when it's snowing out and the water's not working, because I just got to take a shower after I'm wood carving. But I am working on a life-size replica head. So I'm going to show you how the sausage is made here a little bit here on what I have so far. So here's the back. And then, okay,
Oh,
so we're getting ready to mold out the chin and the sagittal crest here on your own personal biggie to hang up on your wall here. So that should be ready to go, furred up and painted by then. He's very lightweight. He's with a resin plastic. And maybe I'll even have two of them. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a Yeti. But working on those to have at
you
the
still there? Am
Squatch
I still
Fest.
live? Sorry, did that
No, you just
get
had a little
black?
hiccup there.
Okay, my parents were calling.
Oh,
I sent them to voicemail.
that's funny.
If I could have patched them in, I would have. It would have been
What
Lovely.
else do we have coming up here? We have some other events coming up.
We have okay, so there's Squatch Fest, and then end of February, are we doing something?
End of February? Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're planning on doing something down in an area. We'll talk about it afterwards, but yeah.
Okay. And there's supposed to be a screening mid-March, third week of March. I don't have it confirmed yet, so let's put a pin in that.
Okay.
Um, there's immediately right now, like in the immediate future, Squatch Fest is the big one. But
Okay.
Brett and I are still lining up shoots for Ron's documentary, and
Hmm.
I spent yesterday going through all the emails we've received through the website, trying to follow up with people. And if you email us, just please be patient because there's a lot. And I did not understand the undertaking that was to like
Oh.
open up the doors and be like, go ahead and just email us. And so I'm trying to get back to everyone. I also found out people been subscribing to our website. So I need to put together a newsletter or something to send out
Oh.
to all the subscribers. But we have started talking to people who want to share their stories, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do that. So if you have a story that you want us to share, like in a live, or maybe we'll just start dedicating one day a week sharing submission stories. I don't know, because I'm having a lot of people email us like, this is what happened to me,
Mm.
but there's no context of whether or not we can share it or it was intended to be
Yeah, if we
shared.
leave the
So
name out, it should kind of just be a
yeah,
given.
I I just I want to be respectful.
Right.
So yeah, and if anyone has ideas on the best protocol for that, I'm all ears, because we are I feel so lucky because we get to hear so many of these stories, and I'm looking
Mm.
forward to Squatch Fest because I
Mm.
know we'll be able to interface with people and hear what they have to say. Now, whether or not they want us to share it is a whole other story. So I'm just trying to work around that and figure
Mhm.
out the best way to do it. So
Yeah, maybe if you're listening or watching, catching us in replay, and you want to email us, uh, it can kind of be linked to one of the witnesses' areas or something like that. Like, hey, I heard about Chad and Austin. I understand they're in Southern Oregon area. I had an experience in Southern Oregon. I had an experience near the Oregon caves, and then we can kind of tie it to a previous episode or something like that. Just a thought.
or just
Hmm.
everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a story.
Just don't tell us about your love life or anything. It'll get
Unless it
awkward.
involves Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah, like moaning for
Then
Bigfoot, your
tell
love
me
story.
everything.
Right.
So that's
Well, that's
that's all
pretty
I
much it.
got. Yeah.
That's it on my end. And so it's always a surprise. I don't know who's popping up next on the videos. I really don't. So I'm eager to see what's going to happen.
Me too. Yeah, I was actually going through the list. Brett and I were kind of having like a strategy session yesterday of like interviews and upcoming shoots and how can we have so much that we want to share. We have so much
Mm.
that we want to go out and film. It's just figuring out how to do it all. So thank you for
Hmm.
your patience as we get this all figured out. But yeah.
No, and I have no updates on the Miami 10-foot tall aliens. I want there to be updates every show. I don't have any updates here. It's solidly drifting over into UFOs that are too big to move now, and so
Oh,
I don't know what to say.
yeah.
That's
So
my UFO update.
I'm gonna say this right now. So if you're just here for Bigfoot, I'm about to shift the conversation to UFOs really quick. So
Okay.
if
I don't
if
even
that's
warn people. At least you have the
if
mindset to
if
warn.
that's where you draw the line in the sand,
Right.
probably now's the time to check off. Thank you for
Right.
joining us. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so let's talk about. So Brett and I just finished watching Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp's 3-part series, and
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. I don't know if there were
That
any
weaponize your
major
curiosity?
takeaways,
Mhm.
other than there were some interesting moments. I appreciate it. I mean, the more we talk about and the more we, normalize the subject, I think the more it just helps move the ball down the field. But Brett kept pausing the show and said, like anytime they'd make some point, he'd pause it and he'd be like, "It's the same thing with Sasquatch. Is
Yeah.
this not the same thing?" And he would like make a statement and then the expert on screen would say the same thing. And so he'd pause it and say, "Is there an echo in here?" And um, but yeah, so we watched that and if we're gonna go down the UFO tech conspiracy theory rabbit hole. I also want to say that it's been really interesting watching the info coming out on the missing Malaysian flight, and some of the stuff surrounding that. So
I gotta mention the word chandelier coming up in this documentary because it caught me
yes,
off guard so much. No one sent it to me. I kind of scrubbed through this three-part documentary on TMZ or Tubi or wherever it's at, and I see Corbell on speakerphone with some guy shrouded in secrecy, and he says, "Am I right to say that you guys called it the chandelier?" I was just like, "What?" Because if you don't know the story of what happened in Cottage Grove, one of the next door neighbors to the Al Moon Lab is this crazy, like not crazy, but it's a crazy name, a good dude with a crazy name, a guy by the name of Wormy, who was having all these UFO experiences. And we're like, "Hey, Wormy, what's going on with Bigfoot out here at night? You're looking up in the sky." And he's like, "Well, I'm looking for the chandelier." Now, fast forward to 2023, Corbell's on the phone having a conversation about the chandelier UFO, and they've got a thermal, I think it's a thermal shot or an IR shot of what looks like this symmetrical craft with points and spires coming off of it. I guess that's what you would call a chandelier. It's so weird to hear that name because it's such a weird name for a UFO. I'd never heard that till. But then when you go to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like when the mothership lands and it's coming down on Devil's Tower, that thing looks like a big old chandelier kind of lowering down on the mesa there. So I don't know. That was just a real crazy moment of confirmation on a name.
and Tobe, I'll be honest, there was part of me that was waiting for the voice on the other end about the chandelier. I was waiting to hear Daryl Adams. "Oh, yeah, yeah."
Right.
Just
Oh
kinda
yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah,
Right.
that."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We got lots of that. Oh, we got tons
Yeah.
of that. We got more in Oklahoma. Right. It's
Well,
bigger and better in Oklahoma. All right.
Tobe,
Well,
that's all I got. So and I
you
don't
got
even
a
have
lot, Jill.
we covered a lot of ground.
Hmm.
Maybe next week we'll do a recap. I'm not even sure who's being posted next, so
It's always a surprise with Uncle Brett.
oh, yeah. Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Alrighty, well,
Um,
thanks everyone for, joining us, and always a delight. If you have any ideas or have other things you want us to cover or discuss, let us know.
we're open for suggestions. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Good night, Jill.
Good night. Take care. And we're gonna end this. How do I end this? Now.